Welcome everybody to a vaguely familiar podcast. My name is Nazar Sayed,
My name is Bashaar.
and we host this podcast, which is quarter cricket, quarter movies, quarter interviews, and quarter music.
Today on the podcast, we had Carl Mir.
He's a vaguely familiar guest.
He hosts the $15 game show on Instagram.
He is also the brother to musician John Mayer.
We talked to him about how he started life in Fairfield, Connecticut, how he started the game show, what he aims to get out of it.
And we talked about how he's a late night talk show aficionado and how we sort of bonded over the fact that the three of us really love late night and its current state. We talked about his famous musician brother, John Mayer, and what it's like growing up with that, and his favorite Mayer songs and stories on the road.
Yeah. Check it out on all the audio stream platforms.
Yeah,
We're also on YouTube. Spotify also has a video now as well. So
yeah, so we're all of that. The best way to support the podcast is to leave reviews, rate it on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you guys listen to podcasts. Like, subscribe on YouTube, and we really hope you like the conversation. It was absolutely entertaining. He's absolutely
so
funny guy, really generous with his time, and just thank you for being on, Carl.
yeah.
I hope you guys enjoy it.
Cheers.
Cheers. Once we had a really high profile guest on and we had the whole podcast done and it didn't record. And we literally wanted to kill ourselves. So we always make sure.
That sounds like a nightmare. I wouldn't.
And then you know what the best part of that podcast was that we told the person that, the recording didn't go through. Can you come on again? And they were very nice. They came on again. And the funniest thing of all was that they made the same exact jokes they made previously. And it was like the same exact podcast.
The same pauses too. So they expected us to laugh back.
Same beats.
Were they promoting something they'd been promoting a bunch that they were on autopilot at that point?
They were actually, so we're a quarter of a cricket podcast as well, so we talk about cricket a lot, and he was one of the biggest cricket statisticians in the game, and we had him on because we just love talking about it, and he went through the same beats, same jokes, same narrative. It's just the funniest thing and most awkward thing ever. It was insane.
And you just had to pretend like it was just as, although you're probably laughing for a different, you're probably laughing harder this time, but for a completely different reason.
It was more like, I felt like we were like in the Truman Show for a bit.
Gotcha.
Where it was like, this is not real life. This cannot
Just looking in the rear view, there's that Volkswagen Beetle again.
So we know it's a Sunday today, Carl. Well, we're gonna, just to let you know, we're gonna have a post intro. So when you leave, we record our intro and we stick it to the beginning. So don't worry, we're going to introduce you properly for the podcast.
Yep.
But we do have Carl Mayer on the podcast, host of the $15 game show, brother to a little John Mayer, and overall amazing crochet, cross stitching master. Like, we wanted to start off with, it's a Sunday and Sunday's game day for you. How do you typically prepare for your game show?
Let's see. During the week, I try to think of questions.
Yeah.
And sometimes that is, just farting around Wikipedia and find, that'll be interesting. And then, come up with one question, and there's 5, per category. So it'll, one will spur hopefully 4 more.
Yeah.
And, but it's usually, no matter how much pre-prep I do, it's usually me at 9:45, 15 minutes before it's going to start, just trying to cut audio clips for the audio clues and print everything out and get the curtain up. It's like, why do I always wait to the last minute?
Yeah.
It's like college paper all over again.
We can
I've been writing it in my head for a month, but now I got to sit down and type it, and it's 2 a.m. and oh my God.
Maybe you work better under pressure.
That's what I tell myself.
Yeah.
Or I just procrastinate, one or the other.
How do you choose the topics? Because you have some really interesting topics, and then you go really deep into the questions as well. And we've also noticed that your questions, as the questions get, they're worth more, they get more difficult. So
Yep.
Is that something that you consciously chose? Like, I want it to be like a proper, level up.
Yeah, well, partly because I want to make it not impossibly hard to the point where people don't want to, even watch or play. but I mean, it's my money. So I want to make it, a little bit of a challenge to win it. I'm not just going to make it a cakewalk. Yeah. And I have found, well, there's two things. One, I'm 46. And so something that I think is a sort of like recent thing that people would know this. Like, no, the average, age is probably about 10 years younger than me.
Yeah.
And so something from like 1993 that I'm like, who wouldn't know this? They don't know it. It was before they were born.
Yeah.
So that I find that when I have one of those, I'll go, you know what? I'll make this one of the harder ones then. Because to me, it's a no-brainer. But to anybody else who, doesn't remember each and every Police Academy movie, it might be more challenging.
What's the most amount of money you've given out in one game?
I once had 3 winners one night.
Wow.
So that was $45 right there.
So like,
are you looking for sponsors? Are you actively looking for sponsors out there?
Yeah, well, that would be nice. Just keep putting it out there. Hopefully, I'm at, I think, just over 8,500 followers now. So hopefully, as it gets bigger, I'll be, something of an influencer, which is frightening. Frightening in its own right.
So how it is? Okay, so we're gonna sort of tackle the Carl Mayer origin story as well as we go along, right? Because obviously there's a lot of history behind that. How does Carl Mayer? Well, you grew up in Fairfield, Connecticut, right?
Yep.
Eldest of 3. It goes Carl, John, and Ben.
Yep.
Right. So, when you think back, retrospectively, hindsight is 2020. Do you find those seeds of becoming a game show in your childhood, or like did you love game shows when you were a kid? What was that like?
Yeah, I loved game shows when I was a kid. My 2 things that no kid is ever like, I'm going to grow up and work in, accounts receivable. Like every kid has some job that they're going to want. Dude, I'm my day job is corporate, it sounds fancier than it is, but corporate trading.
Yeah.
It's more on the media side, but still it's not anything that a little kid is like, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But my 2 kind of pie in the sky things were either game show host or talk show host, because I grew up just loving Letterman.
Yeah. It shows. It really shows.
Good. You know what? If you're going to model yourself after somebody, might as well be, one of the best in the game.
Yeah. Totally.
But that was, it was always, I was always more comfortable reading. That's why I like doing radio, because I did that for a while, on the side. And it was like, I don't actually have to make eye contact with anybody. I can just look at this microphone and it's just me in this room. And, that's part of the thing with the game shows is, you have to be quick and improvise, and not every guest is going to be, a real firecracker. You're going to have to kind of keep the game moving. But other than that, it's like I'm reading questions that I wrote, so I know the answers, so I look smart. It's perfect.
How long did you do the radio gig?
I did it for, I think, probably about 3 years. It's a really good station, WXPK, The Peak in White Plains in Westchester County. It's like I guess it's AAA, like adult, or is it AOR? I forget the radio terms, but like older alternative stuff, but also the new stuff. And I just liked the station, and kind of just went in one day and talked to them and auditioned and made a little tape and was doing Saturday nights and Sunday mornings. And then it got to the point where it was like,
see you have the radio, or hear you have the radio voice. You have a very soothing voice. And,
oh, thank you.
We're just talking.
You should start a podcast too.
You should start a podcast. That's something that we were going to pitch you. Like, you should definitely have a pod. Why not?
I don't think I could do. I don't think I have the discipline like this. I could do every week, but I can't imagine every week having a schedule. Like, that's why you see so many podcasts that just, you'll look at it and go, this was really good, and they did like 4 and they stopped.
Yeah.
And it's not because it sucked. It was good. It's just they stopped doing it.
There is a lot of work to it, especially with the editing, and there's a lot of like post-production and pre-production, I guess. This part is the easy part, to be honest. It's the things that happen after.
It's the resistance to coming here and sitting and recording, and you just have to be relentless at the end of the day to keep pushing.
you're probably pretty good at Pro Tools by this point. I assume that's what you use?
No, we use Adobe Audition, Adobe Premiere.
That's how old I am. There's new stuff, and I'm like, you're probably using GarageBand
for your podcast.
And then the reason I stopped doing the radio thing was just when you're doing Saturday nights and Sunday mornings, and you are single, you're going to stay that way if you're busy on Saturday nights and Sunday mornings. Because you can't stay out late. You end up, you can't really go out on Saturday. And then when you do go out, you're going out late, but you can't stay out late because you got to do Sunday morning.
That's
even though
why
a lot of it was voice tracked, it was still like, you still had to do it.
Yeah, that's why I love Howard Stern's show. This man shows up every single day at like 6 a.m., 5 a.m. And he makes his guests show up at 6 a.m. too. Like some of them are like clearly like groggy and like hungover from the night before, but they're there. And
I feel bad for the singers that have to do it.
Those are tough.
Yeah.
It's like 6, it's 7:30 in the morning. Maybe they didn't go to sleep.
Yeah.
And then now they have to perform. Mm-hmm. And it's not even like, some local station in Poughkeepsie. Like it's the Stern Show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like that's the work ethic.
I heard in the pandemic he was like shipping out audio equipment for people to still have pristine audio.
So like that's something we're looking into eventually. Once we become a bigger podcast, we're like, you know what, we're gonna ship out mics to our guests so like they can have better audio as well.
Well, I think he's actually still doing it from his place in the Hamptons. I don't think he's set foot in the studio since the shutdown.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. He brings in guests in his studio, and they're somewhere else, and he's somewhere else. Yeah,
it's really. I was watching David Spade, another great podcast. David Spade and Dana Carvey were there promoting theirs, and it was weird because they were in the Stern studio, looking at where he would have been, where there must have been a monitor or something. It was very strange, but it works.
It works. Yeah, but you couldn't tell because I listen to Stern on audio only, and it's like I can't tell the difference.
There's look, he's doing 3 days a week. He's got his summers off.
Yeah.
He doesn't even have to go into the studio anymore. He's
living the life.
A really good deal.
Yeah. So you were always, what was your what were some of your favorite game shows growing up?
We were big on Wheel and Jeopardy because they came on at 7 and 7:30 after dinner.
Yeah.
And it's interesting where we lived in Fairfield was you got the New York stations, but also the New Haven and Hartford stations.
Yeah.
So you'd have two affiliates for each network. Yeah. And one of them for ABC showed Wheel and then Jeopardy, and the other showed Jeopardy and then Wheel. Mm-hmm. So the three of us go down and watch the first airing of Jeopardy, knowing our father watched the second one. So we're like busting out answers left and right. He's like, how did you know about the Peloponnesian War? I don't know, Dad. I just know it. I don't know.
I read it in school.
It took him all of 10 minutes to realize what we were doing.
So then I guess that's where you start picking up the knack for wanting to become a game show host.
Yeah, I think that that, and then growing up watching Bob Barker on Price is Right, and there it was the heyday of game shows. There was Press Your Luck and Let's Make a Deal is still on, but Match Game, Card Sharks.
Do you watch some of the more modern ones like Family Feud and stuff?
The thing with Family Feud, it's almost like at this point, Steve Harvey has become the meme of Steve Harvey.
Yeah,
because he'll be like, they ask these totally suggestive questions, and then he'll act shocked when somebody says penis. They'd be like, name something you put in a vagina, and they'd be like, penis. And he's like, oh, why are you talking dirty?
That's true.
The people are like, good answer.
I have a feeling that's going to get edited out. I tried to.
No, this is
okay.
We keep most of it. So you're good. So growing up, you loved the game show stuff. What about you used to watch it with your brothers? Was that like a thing that you guys did together?
Kind of, yeah, because it was this is going to sound like such a in my day kind of thing, but it was like there were.
You're not that old. You're not that old.
I'm not, but I'm just old enough where kids that were born 15 years later, they just know how to code. And I don't. And it's a whole different, I had a collection of DVDs that was like honestly 1,000 plus, and now it's like, well, those were useless because who does physical media?
Yeah.
But there weren't a ton of channels, so it was like you watched what was on, and a lot of the time that's what was on.
All right,
That's fair.
It made it more interesting to be on. I think the level that you had, the threshold for how good you had to be to get on TV was much higher then.
Right.
Because if
Truly.
you were on TV, people were like, "Oh, he's on TV." There's like 3 networks, 4 if you count Fox, and then some UHF stations.
Yeah.
And it was like you had to be good to get on TV. Now there's so many outlets and platforms and networks that they need content. Like it's going to be more people will have had a TV show than didn't.
Look at us.
I think it's easier to make it now than it was before.
I think it depends what you mean by make it. I think it's easier to get on TV now than it was before because the barriers to entry are just, compared to what they were, they're basically gone.
Yeah.
But to get anybody to watch it and notice it with that many, it's easier to get on because there's so many options. It also makes it more difficult for people to get noticed.
Yeah.
Because there's so many options.
Right.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Like, look at us. We host a internet show, and we're talking to a host of another internet show, and we're not on traditional media at all.
This 10 years ago would have sounded like science fiction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or it'd be the kind of thing that was like so rare and so, nerd alert that it would have just, but this is now it's the norm.
Yeah, and it was nerd alert. Like the joke was like every college guy wants to start a podcast. Like that was the joke in my university.
Yeah.
And now look, like, and I think most of them did. I mean, the joke stood.
Yeah.
It's sort of, it's so easy to start a podcast with, all the equipment is totally, a lot of the time it's built into the computer, everything you're going to need. It's just to do one that is worth doing. That's, doing it now is no big deal.
If you were to start a podcast, let's talk in hypotheticals. What would you talk about? What would it be about?
I'd rather honestly do an interview thing.
Yeah.
Than or have something with somebody else to bounce things off of. Because to me, the most interesting things are either like Mark Maron with the interviews or you guys doing interviews or the thing where it's like 3 guys shitting on bad movies, like the We Hate Movies podcast or talking about good movies. There's one called The Cinephiles, which is fantastic. And it's 2 guys, 3 guys, having a conversation versus I can't imagine just, I could totally sit and talk about nothing for 45 minutes. I just can't imagine anybody wanting to hear it.
I mean, you're a good orator.
You'd imagine so.
You have good ideas. So
Yeah.
I think that would be a good podcast. If I'm being strictly honest, I tune into that.
If I didn't have a day job that I needed to worry about, I'd be more likely to try it. It's just when you have to fill that time, I might say things that make it, that become an HR issue.
Right.
Yeah.
I have
So
to
it's
be
like, let's
very
just stay away
careful
from
what I
that.
say too.
What's that?
Between the 2 of us, he's the younger one and I'm the older one. You could never tell, but he's the one that's working the corporate job right now, and I'm finishing up school. So whenever we're on the podcast, he has to really censor himself.
Yeah.
And I find that hilarious.
Yeah.
Because it's not even like, a cancel culture thing. It's just you are always kind of representing the company whenever you're doing anything that's put out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you say something that pisses off enough people,
Yeah.
you're going to hear about it from HR.
I mean, I have friends that when they're applying for new jobs, they put their Twitter and Instagram to private, just so that when the company doesn't do a background check, they don't find something suspicious or
Problematic.
could be cancelable.
Yeah.
I always think about that when I see, younger, not to be chauvinistic, but especially younger women who have the pictures of them with like a giant bottle of Kettle One and they're like kissing it and stuff. It's like, this is going to be out there when people are looking you up. Although maybe enough people have had that kind of dumb stuff on social media that it's just sort of baked in and they know that's going to be there and nobody judges you for it.
I think HR mostly now looks at like problematic stuff. Like they'd go through tweets and be like, are you like, I don't know, are you going to represent the company in a bad light? Is it going to be, tough for us to keep like defending you or whatever? And then that's when they make their decision if they want to keep you or not. So it's tough out there, man.
That's why you're always representing, if not your brand, then the brand of the company that pays your checks, signs your checks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
There's no way this part stays in there. I was so boring.
No. Look, I'm telling you,
behave, everybody.
No, the thing is, we've been editing so many podcasts that we know when there's a good lull. Let's just say that, right?
Gotcha.
We need a good lull every now and then. We can't have it all at 100 miles per hour. I wanted to talk a little bit about your brother and your brother being your younger brother being John Mayer, right? That's huge.
Yep.
This was actually, I'm wearing a Sob Rock sweatshirt, but I swear I just picked it out. It was not meant to be a meta thing.
Dude, my wife was wearing hers today. Like it's a cool sweatshirt.
I love the sweatshirt. How was that like growing up with your younger brother? You know, him, because I'm assuming you went through the traditional way of like going to school, going to college, finding a job. Yep. And then your younger brother is like, you know what? I'm going to pursue music, but I'm also going to drop out of school and I'm going to do this my own way. As an older brother, because I'm an older brother, and if he did that, I'd be very, very concerned. Did that ever come across?
The dropping out didn't, because it wasn't like he was going to, a regular university to major in econ and dropped out. It was Berkeley Music School, where from what I can tell, there are a lot of people that do a year, do 2 years, have an opportunity because they are going there to be musicians and have an opportunity to do music outside of school, and they take it. And maybe they come back, maybe they don't. That it seems a little more fluid than just like, I was going to, Cincinnati, University of Cincinnati, and I screw this. 2 years, I'm done. You wasted the money, mom and dad.
Yeah.
I never, ever doubted his talent. That's like, it's so evident. It was just, I doubted the odds. Like, it was a ballsy move to do that.
Did you ever have a conversation with him about that?
No, because you know what? If somebody's that determined and that focused on it, there's no point in saying, well, have you considered? Because they probably have considered it and decided that it's worth the risk. Or it's not like I'm going to, if they haven't considered it, it's not like me saying, perhaps you should think this through, that's going to turn anybody around. Like, if you're determined to do it and you're talented enough to do it and you have that drive, you're going to do it no matter what.
I agree with that.
Right. Yeah. While you were reading up about you, we read that your father got both of you guys, you and John, guitars when you guys were 13, and you guys would take lessons on Mondays. And what made you not pursue the guitar as much as your younger brother? Because your life trajectory has kind of changed based on that, I guess.
I didn't stop doing it because it wasn't the kind of thing where he was so much better. So I was like, well, screw this. I'm not going to do it. He's so much like it wasn't my instrument.
Yeah.
Like I still know enough chords to like be a halfway decent, like camp counselor around a campfire type thing. Bar chords mess me up on an acoustic. I got, to hit down like a B minor and hit down all those strings is,
Do you have
I don't do enough to have the calluses.
Do you have the genetically long thumbs as well? Oh my God. There we go.
Well, I got a Band-Aid because I chewed thumbnail pretty bad, but
yeah. But then so you have the
sorry,
genetic
ladies, I'm taken. I chewed my thumbnail half off.
But that's so interesting to see. Like, so was it one guitar that you guys shared, or was it two different guitars?
No, we each got like a Washburn acoustic guitar, and like it was just I kind of saw that I'm gonna quickly reach my level of competence and stay there. So what's the point in continuing to get lessons just to plateau?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like it wasn't for me, and I never felt like any. I would probably, if I were better, I might feel jealous a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you've seen Amadeus, but there was Salieri, who was this composer who was great and very serious about it. And then Mozart was like this braying jackass who was Mozart. And it just pissed him off. Like, why is this fool? So, I'm not calling John a fool, but like, why is he like, I would understand if I were as good or close to as good, I could see being, having other different feelings about it, but it's like I could not possibly do that. Yeah. So good for you.
When did you know he made it? as the older brother, because I'm an older brother as well, and I feel very protective over him. And like I don't know if you had the same like protectiveness that you have for your little younger siblings, but like
I always knew
he'd watching his back.
I always knew he'd be able to like play gigs and make enough to like sustain life. But there's a couple of points. One was like when in this movie Serendipity with John Cusack and Kate Beckinsale, I think it is. And his song 83 is on the soundtrack for like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And that was the first like, oh, okay, you're in this Cusack movie. And then I'd say then when No Such Thing hit, it became kind of like, well, this is hilarious. Like if this never happens again, it's still this is awesome. Yeah. But then I think it was probably when Heavier Things came out and did well. I'm like, all right, well, this is your job now. This is for real. Yeah. And that was that. So that final making it,
was probably.
There's been incremental steps since then of like better and better. But like that was where it's like, okay, this is now what you do.
Yeah. Right. I went to high school with Shawn Mendes in grade 10. We were in the same gym class, and for an immigrant that was from Pakistan, to see Shawn's meteoric rise was just absolutely insane. I'm guessing, like, how is it like for you to see John's rise and him seeing like winning awards and playing at huge shows?
I'm so tickled by it. Like it's still like when we went to the shows at Madison Square Garden back in February, and still that moment when like the lights come down and the crowd gets loud and the anticipation coming out, that never ever gets old. That's still like I laugh when that happens, and it's not like I'm laughing at him. It's just the funniest, fun, happy thing. The times that it's strange is if it's like, I got to run to CVS because we're out of toilet paper, and I'll hear like daughters playing over the thing, and that's weird.
Yeah, I could never imagine that for you.
I know. It's just
because so between the two of us, I'm the more like artistically inclined, and like I'm a writer and pursuing this thing, and obviously writing is a very different thing than like pursuing music, because music could be not overnight, but like, it could be instant. You could release an album and it just blows up. But then writing is like a tough, tedious task. And then you read these writers' memoirs, like Stephen King and all these other guys who like found success like in their 30s and maybe early 40s. And like right now we're like in the thick of it, where it's like it's just like a patience game. Like you just gotta plow through, you gotta put in the work, and I find myself like sometimes severely demotivated because I'm like, I don't know if this will ever materialize to anything. And then I come to him and we have a conversation, and like he really buckles me up. So like, did you ever find yourself like sometimes being the cornerstone for your brother, being like, yo, it's okay, keep doing it, you're doing good, and like, never give up, stuff like that? What I'm trying to say is like when he had a downer moment, were you there for him as an older brother that's trying to pave the way?
You know what? Honestly, if he had, I'm sure he had downer moments, but oftentimes, if he did, I wasn't aware of it.
Yeah.
He probably had people that were more physically, closer to him, that he could, also other musicians that he could talk to about it. I think one thing we do is if he has, especially if he writes something just as a goofy thing, it's a lot of comedic reassurance, because we have the same sense of humor.
Yeah.
That if I think if I make him laugh, or if he makes me laugh, we know, okay, this is at the very least, this is at least funny to two people.
Yeah. And I guess that camaraderie really like shows as well, because like there was a point where the $15 game show was sort of like the lead into Current Mood.
Yeah.
And that was so much fun, man. Like I used to watch your show and then immediately go to Current Mood, and it felt like a 1-2 punch. It was great.
It was really, really fun. If I had any brains at all, I would have put mine after his and have the lead in.
Yeah.
But look, it's already he was doing it in sometimes in Montana, a lot of the time in LA. It would start at 11 o'clock p.m. on the East Coast. Who knew how long it was going to run?
Yeah.
I didn't want to be like 12:30 on a Sunday night when I had to go to work in the morning and be like, all right, folks, let's do a game show.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair. But like the thing is, his shows and your shows are very tight, like good 40 to 50-minute pocket. It's engaging, it's fun, and like it keeps people interested. Like that's what you want.
It's what's been weird about this show, and I didn't really see it coming, and I think it had been going on for a while before I was made aware of it, is that there's a weird, like, not even that weird, but there's a positivity that goes on with the show. It just makes people happy.
100%.
And to me, it was like, this is something I'm doing in my basement just to entertain myself, to like scratch that I want to be a game show itch, or a game show host itch. And it's like the fact that it makes other people like legitimately happy.
It does.
Was really humbling. And then it also felt like a responsibility where I started cleaning it up a little bit in terms of language, in terms of not, still sort of making fun of some of the contestants, but more gently ribbing them.
Yeah. I mean,
I got vicious some of the times way back before I realized that people actually liked it.
The thing is, the gentleness shows, like, you're very sensitive about the show, and you make sure that the contestants are having a good time, you're having a good time, and people who are watching are having a good time. And honestly, it really shows.
Yep.
Cool.
And you do your thorough research too. I mean, it's not just the questions and the answers, but you also have a lot of hints that you sort of slide through. And that shows as well. So, I mean, kudos, keep it going. And I would someday love to, appear on it as well.
Yeah.
Come on, when's this, as the kids say, gonna drop?
This is gonna drop probably next Sunday.
So Sunday, I gotta check the schedule, because I might. Hopefully, I'm doing a show next Sunday, because I have to work it around actual life. So, but yeah, come on and promote the podcast.
For sure, we'll do that.
But if you're listening to this now, it's already next Sunday.
Yeah.
Probably you're listening to it on Monday, and it already happened. Guys, you were awesome on my show yesterday to a week from now.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. It's just, it was so funny when we got in touch on Instagram. You probably will never know this, but there were like paragraphs of me inviting you previously that I had to go back and delete, because I didn't want to seem desperate. And like,
I had no idea.
Yeah, I know. And I was like, he's going to open my chat up and he's going to find like 3 posts from like 2021. Like, hey, Carl, we're like really big fans. You want to come on our show? And I was like, this is so desperate. I have to delete them. So I deleted them.
I had no idea. You know what? I rarely go into the request part, because it's one of two things. It's either just, and this is probably a function of being older, when people just reply with like a laughing emoji or the fire or whatever. It's like, why do you even bother? Why do you even you have nothing to say. You're putting an emoji.
Yeah.
But that's the cranky old fart in me. Or it's ones where it's like somebody who, it says, this person doesn't follow you. All their pictures are like clearly like just thirst trap stuff. And it's like, at the very least, it's going to get me hacked.
Yeah.
It's probably one of those things where, they probably send out a bunch, and if they send out 1,000, one guy is going to send them money.
Yep.
Yeah.
When we first came to Canada, my dad there's a lot of like phishing and scamming here. And my dad once got a text that his bank account got hacked. And he got so freaked out. And this was had just moved to Canada, and we were like trying to make a life here. And we had like a certain amount of money, and my dad freaked out. He was like calling the bank, was calling the police. I'm like, Dad, you need to calm down. It's a toll-free number. They would never scam you like that.
Yes. But they're getting really, really, really clever, because that's the one where it says, we think you've been hacked.
Yeah.
Click this website, and then you click there, and it's like, put in your password, and they're counting on you panic and being like, oh, sure, here's my password, Chase. And then it's like, you've just given them your password.
Yeah.
What was the podcast that double reverse?
There was a really good podcast about.
It was called Reply All, and they had an episode of these scammers from India. They would target really old people here in North America, and they would be like, oh, your computer's hacked, you have a virus, it's going to steal all your information. And those old people would panic, and they would give them all their banking information, they would pay them, and then they would just scam them and disappear.
But what this guy did was he started tracking down the guy who tried to scam him.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, like, I'm not gonna spoil it. You should definitely check it out. But
Reply All,
this-
it's called?
it's called
Reply
Reply
All.
All. And this guy ends up in India trying to find this guy who scammed him in New York.
That's great.
And it's all on the podcast. It's a 2-parter.
Yeah.
Highly recommend it. Amazing.
And the best
really
part
good.
is India, it does not have a tremendous population. So you should be able to just pick the guy out, no problem.
The story, the way the story unfolds, is actually like a thriller. And the way it's told, it's amazing. You should definitely check it out. Like once I heard that podcast, I was like, these guys have nothing on me. I know everything now.
They really, I've heard of the one where they'll, when it pops up looking like the fake blue screen of death from a PC.
Yeah.
And call this number for Microsoft. So you call them and they do that thing where they can get out, you give them permission to go on and
Right.
That's
and
exactly
they'll,
what it
like,
was.
They'll change your password and hide your files on your computer. And now you have to they ransom it.
Yeah.
Carl, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Were you on the podcast?
Yeah,
'Cause
they would act
you know
as
what?
Microsoft technicians.
It's so smart the way, just like that one where it's like, we think you might have been hacked.
Mhm.
And then they're actually a hacker. Like just reversing it like that. This is semi-related. There's, I don't know if you know, if he's passed away like 10 years ago or something. He's not just a comedic magician, but his name's Ricky Jay. And he was a student of magic and cons and all that stuff. He did a lot of stuff with David Mamet. And I went and saw one of his live performances, and he told the story of a guy who was like this famous pickpocket in New York.
Yeah.
And he put up a magnetic sign inside the subway car that said, there's pickpockets around here. Make sure you have your wallet. And then what happened is people would feel their leg or their breast pocket to make sure their wallet was there and basically tell him, here's where my wallet is. And he knew it was like, boom, I know where that guy's wallet is right now. That's super easy to get now.
It's like that scene from Inception where he's trying to crack into the guy's mind, and when he talks about the safe, Sato looks at the safe.
Yep.
And that's where he knows where the safe is hidden. That's insane.
I need to watch more Inception because it's one of those things where it was kind of like I had just gotten a Blu-ray player, and it was the first Blu-ray I got, and it looked gorgeous, and I just watched it over and over again because, again, being an old man, this high definition stuff.
Yeah. The 4K.
When the pandemic hit, some of the local theaters started playing older movies, and because when Inception came out, we were too young in Karachi to go out. My parents wouldn't let us go to the movie theaters. It was a thing. And then when it came out here during the pandemic, in 2020, they were playing it in IMAX. And we watched it for the first time in IMAX, and we've seen it 100 million times.
Yeah. Same feels though.
But
Same
it was
moments.
insane. When the Hans Zimmer score kicks in and you feel it in your soul, it was just...
You also
amazing.
feel it in your chest with that bass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's the same song each time, just with each level of the dream within a dream, it just gets slower.
Yeah. The intricacies in that movie, they always blow me away.
Yep.
That's why I'm afraid to watch Tenet, because I'm I'm going to feel really dumb watching this movie.
Please watch Tenet with subtitles because
Yeah.
we watched it in theaters and we couldn't understand the movie. It was inaudible for
The
us.
audio is actually really bad.
And
Yeah, I heard there's white noise and all kinds of background noise. And what is it with Nolan and the same thing with Bane? They had to re-record all Bane's dialogue before
I'm
Dark Knight
tired
came out.
of these directors wanting me to feel these movies. I want to understand them.
Wouldn't that
What
be
are you
nice?
saying?
Yeah. Every now and then, just make me understand it.
It's we do a lot of watching with captions, especially if there's sometimes if it's what's the movie Snatch or Lock, Stock and
Snatch.
however many smoke 2, 3, however many smoking barrels with that Cockney thing. It's I can't understand you, and I put on the captions oh no, I understood just fine. I just don't know what that means.
Yeah. Brad Pitt in Snatch is what are you even saying?
Yes, I don't even think he knew.
Yeah. It was just a lot of mumbling and
Yeah.
voices. Speaking of that, because you were talking about you don't really get into your DMs and you don't really look through that, which is fine. But I still got through you, so we're here.
Yeah, because in the comments you asked me, and I was being kind of a smart ass. I was like, yeah, well, you know what? Send me a DM. Let me know, what kind of show it is, so I can tell you now.
Yeah, and I was I took that as a challenge. I was I'm still gonna DM you, and if you get on the show, I will win. So you're here.
It was real. It was. I think I told you when we were DMing that so many of these podcasts, because like I said before, there's so many of them.
Yeah.
And it's just people that either aren't prepared to do it or shouldn't be doing it. And it's just kind of plotting and, all right, so what do we what are we gonna do next? Okay. It's like a comedian going up on open mic night with no notes and no material.
Yeah.
But then like the first one I listened to was the Spider-Man one, and you guys kept moving, and there was, I mean, it helps when you're talking about a movie because there's kind of built-in progression as you talk through the movie.
Yeah.
But no, it was.
Thank you.
I don't know. This is my first podcast.
I know. That's how we're going to market it. Carl Mayer's first podcast. Exclusive.
We deflowered him.
So, I was going to ask how, because you don't really go into your DMs, but you are in the physical world a lot. How often do you get recognized as Carl Mayer, the guy from the $15 game show, or Carl Mayer?
Not frequently. You know what? When
any weird recognition or stories that you want to tell us?
Well, here's one. Okay, so when I used to do Twitter, which I've been off Twitter for years now because it was just a cesspool of, you'd get into arguments with people and you'd get heated and really just fully enraged, and you realize nobody's reading it but you too. And what's the point? You're not going to convince the other person's probably a troll who's just having fun, and I'm frothing about it.
Yeah.
But I had, I think, like 15,000 followers or something. And we were in the city at lunch for work, and we had ordered way too much food, and we had like half a pizza left.
Yeah.
And we weren't sure what to do with it because we were on our way to a conference. We're not going to walk in with pizza. Nobody wanted to take it home. So just as a test, I'm like, let me just see what happens if I put on Twitter, I have like a half a leftover pizza. Come to the corner of, it was over by Carnegie Hall, wherever, 57th, I guess. And just, you can have this pizza. And within 5 minutes, I got a tweet saying, I'm here. Can I really have the pizza? and it was this guy who was like, I don't care about the pizza. I just wanted to get a selfie with you. And I was like, that's really weird. And I didn't have a show or anything. I was just, at that point, I'm sure it was because I probably made them laugh twice on Twitter, and mostly it was because I was John's brother, which is fine. But that's when I first went, there's something weird about this social media thing that I'm not even that big, and somebody actually cares enough to come get a pizza they're going to have to deal with throwing away now.
You probably ate it. I'm pretty sure they ate it.
It was good pizza.
Does it ever get annoying being John's brother?
Not really. I mean, I have to say his fans, if I get, if we're at, well, I should say pre-COVID, because that's a whole nother thing, because now I can just tell people, people know to back away from each other just because we, especially in that first year, I think everybody particularly in the New York area still has some elements of like PTSD or so. It's altered our brains now because it wasn't just like, I don't want to catch this thing. It was like, it's everywhere. And if I get too close to somebody, I could die. Yeah. And so I think people just have it in them now to like not get too close. But before then, go to a concert or something, and people are like, oh my God, are you? And I'd say, yeah. And they go, okay, get a picture. And I was like, all right. Like, I don't know why you'd actually want to, but go ahead. But if there were people, especially now, if I'm someplace with our kid, if they're like, oh, can I get a picture? I'm like, I can't right now. And for the most people, like, okay, sorry, they get very apologetic. And then I get apologetic. I'm like, no, it's not your fault. I just I would, but I can't. Yeah. And nobody is like overly, and the Grateful Dead fans actually don't even give a shit.
Yeah. They're a tough bunch to please anyways.
They're either way too, they've been pre-gaming, for 20 years, or they're, it doesn't matter to them. But for the most part, John's fans are very cool. Like, they're either get a picture and keep moving, or I can't. And they're like, okay, cool, sorry.
Yeah.
So nobody's been like really overbearing about it at all.
You went on stage in, I think it was 2007 or 8, and you played White Georgia with John.
Yeah.
Was that the only time you've been on stage with him?
No.
And how was the experience?
All right. Well, the White Georgia thing, he had told me about it the night before.
Yeah.
And so I went online and looked at the chords and tried. In fact, if you watch one of the videos of it on YouTube, whoever's making the video turns the camera off of us onto the stage and then onto the big LCD, LED, whatever screen. And you can see John watching. It's like in baseball, the pitcher, like the catcher's calling signs and the pitcher's going, no, yes. Because he could see from my hands, like, no, wrong chord. You can see him going, nodding. And I just, it's an audio format. And I just shook my head and nodded to prove a point. Brilliant.
It's also a video format. I told you it's going to be like, people
but you're actually doing, I thought you were actually publishing. I thought this was just for you guys. Gotcha.
No. It's for everybody.
But that was, and then what he didn't tell me, either because he knew I'd have reservations about it, or because he said, in case this really sucks, I'm not going to do it. But at the point with So What, So I've Got a Smile On.
Yeah.
That was just like, okay, just you guys and Carl. And I was like, what? And I can't just go, no, sorry. Like, I have to do it.
Yeah.
And so, if I knew that I was going to have to do it.
Did you rehearse before, or was it just everything on?
No, I mean, the night before, like a lot by myself, but not, I didn't do the sound check or anything. But here's one. It was actually the second time that I went up. The first time was, it was Mix 95 point whatever in Boston. Mm. And they did their, I think this was what it was Mix. It was either his show in Boston, or it was one of those things where it's like, a bunch of artists and he was kind of closing out the show. And he was doing St. Patrick's Day.
Oh.
And there's a part where there's like sleigh bells in it. And the way that he wanted me to play it, he showed me, beforehand, is you just kind of hold the sleigh bells, the bells are on a stick, you hold it upside down and you kind of hit the bottom of the stick, and that ching, 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 that it's a lot more accurate than shaking it. You get more control out of the percussive nature of it. So, okay, no problem. Then what I'm standing off to the side off the stage on the floor by the stairs up to the stage. And I think that Ken Healy said, that's how you're going to go up, just up those stairs. And I heard, go on up. So I'm like, okay. And I go up way early, standing there like just a schmuck, just not knowing what to do. And John looks over at me, he's like, oh, he's here already. Okay. And that was fine. I don't think anybody picked up on the fact that I jumped the gun, except, anybody who knew when I was supposed to go up.
Yeah.
But the mic stand, I was going like this because it was a little bit high and I wanted it to be lower. So I lowered the mic, and then I guess the physics of it, gravity took over. Ha ha ha. And it starts like falling now because it's on like a pivot,
boom arm.
Like
a boom arm.
Yeah. And I don't know if it was the fulcrum or whatever scientific physics thing. Now the thing's like 2 feet off the floor, and I didn't want to start messing around with it more. So I just did what all I could do is I knelt down and basically laid my body down. I probably looked like the biggest asshole. But
tell me there's video of this, please.
Yeah, I hope we could find something.
Every so often I check YouTube in the hopes that I won't find it. So far, success.
You give yourself the torture of actually like YouTubing this, and you're like, oh my God, the 2 seconds where it takes for the thing to load, you're like, oh my God, it might be there. But then it's not.
And thank goodness it hasn't been, because it was just one of those things where it was like, and as it's happening, I knew I looked like an ass.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'm in this far. Let's just do it.
Did you hear anything? Did you hear anything from John later? Like, what was that? Or like any criticism about the performance?
No, thank God. Because I think it was either it was such a nothing thing that I've built up in my head, or it was as bad as I think it was. And he was like, the poor guy's already beating himself up. I'm not going to bring it up to him.
But how was it like performing the second time when you're doing Why Georgia? Like there's like 15,000, 20,000 people there.
It was
and you're up there with your brother.
It was like exhilarating and fun, and I don't necessarily need to do it ever again. Yeah. It was like, I did it. I don't know how he does it because even though, yes, he's got the talent and everything, it's mental work to have to, you have that many people watching you. Yeah. I don't know if you can ever get used to it.
For me, it's about like, how does he keep it fresh? Because I mean, when he's on tour, he's doing like multiple shows, and there's approximately 15 to 20,000 people on every show. And it probably does put a lot of pressure to perform and entertain all of them.
I think part of it is he always has a great, really fun, nice, besides the fact that they are incredibly talented as people, his band is some of the nicest, funniest people. So there are times when I'm like, that is keeping, I can tell that that's keeping it fresh because they're, halfway through a tour but they're keeping each other entertained. And that's going to keep everybody else, it's going to keep them all up and keep it a good show for everybody else.
You actually had Greg on your own show a few weeks ago.
Yes.
Right? How was that?
Oh, he's the nicest guy in the world.
Yeah.
It was really strange to actually, I didn't realize the following he has because he put up a story of just the two of us and my follows just shot up, which I didn't realize the following, and not just the numbers, but like the devoted following that he has, where if somebody comes on his story, they're going to follow them because it's sort of like, well, he likes them and I like him. So by association, this guy's worth a follow. And then the pressure was on, like, I can't suck now. My next post has to be really good or I'm going to start losing them.
He had that with one of the YouTubers that we had. He was like a productivity guru, 3 billion subscribers on YouTube, and he followed him. And ever since he followed him, he was so conscious of every story he was putting out, every post that he was having.
Because I'm looking at it through their lens. I'm like, okay, this guy, he's a productivity guru on YouTube, right? He's gonna be on Instagram. Everything is like optimized. It has to be efficient. He comes on my post and he just, what is he? Am I gonna waste his time? Like I went there, and it really gets to you.
That's
gets
a whole nother level of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's not just am I wasting his time, because his whole thing is not wasting time.
Yeah, his whole thing is time management, and like my 3-second post that he might not even see, he might just skip over. Am I wasting it? Like it got ridiculous. I'm telling you.
So if he unfollows you, that is an expert who knows things that are worth his time, that he's telling you that you are not worth his time. And he's someone who would know.
Yeah. But, that's a reality check I don't need.
Well, would he spend the time to go on his profile and hit the unfollow button? Because that's also
it's wasting time.
Oh, he just resents you for making him even have to unfollow.
You know what? So he came on the podcast. It was a great podcast. The best one. Like it's the most popular one we've done. And then like a few weeks ago, he was on Instagram Live and I was on Instagram Live. And I think when you follow each other, your comments like come up. So I just was like, hey, Ali, what's up? A long time no talk. And he was so courteous and he was like, yo, I've been thinking about you and like, I hope you're good. And whenever I come to Toronto, I'll come say hi. I'm like, I guess he liked it.
He's been thinking about me. He's spending his time thinking about me.
He's got that precious commodity of time and he's blessing you with some of it.
Hey man,
I hadn't thought about that though. The fact that if you and I follow the same person and you put a comment, it's pushed to the top and more visible to me.
Yeah.
So that's now a whole level of pressure because if you get a high profile person following you, that a lot of your peers follow, that you have followers in common, you have to make sure your comments are good too. Because they're going to see that the minute they look at the post.
100%.
Yep.
100%. It's not. So if you have one that kind of sucks, it's kind of a dud. It's not going to be buried in the mix. It's going to be right there with a spotlight on it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh shit!
I'm sorry.
I hadn't even thought of that.
Did we just ruin your show tonight?
No, that's awesome. I thrive on that high pressure thing of like I cannot. If I just got a bunch of followers, I could lose them very easily. It's got to be good.
Yeah, it's gonna be. Hey, your shows have always been better. Every show is better than the next. So,
cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I find the one thing that I'm still awkward with is like I genuinely want to know where the person's from.
Yeah.
Either because it's something to like talk about and keep the game moving. Oh, how are things in? Oh, if it was something, if they're from, a city or state where some crazy thing just happened, it's something to talk about with them and put them at ease and honestly eat some time.
Yeah.
But I find it seems very insincere if it's like, what's your name? Where you from? Like, that's where the DJ thing comes in.
Get to know them. Yeah.
But the thing is, I don't know if you've ever gotten this compliment, but you're really good with small talk. So
I am shocked because it feels like there are times when I finish a show. Thank you for saying that, because there are times when I'll finish a show and be like, oh my God, how could anybody want to see that fumbling, bumbling
Buffoon.
no.
Seriously, yeah.
Just going with the bees. But the thing is, it's not that. You're good with small talk. It never comes across as, oh, he's being awkward or that was weird. It's always
I have to work on one thing. And since this is visual, I can do it. Like I find, and it's been pointed out to me too, that my default face is like sort of peeved. Like that. Like,
yeah. Yeah.
like I'm not, but my face, my eyes are saying that I am.
Yeah.
Also, without my readers, you're just a blur. There we go.
See, now you've shown your age. The
I
whole
feel like
podcast, you've been good, but now.
The corporate life also helps with the small talk. Okay, how are you? How was your weekend? Oh yeah, I did this. So yeah, how about you?
Feigning interest is like the best. But then the problem is sometimes when somebody actually wants to tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you have a good weekend? Well, first my mother-in-law.
Oh, yeah. You know what the worst part is? When he's like when he's done from a meeting and we're all at the dinner table and he starts using like corporate jargon.
Yeah.
Like let's
circle back.
Let's put a pin on that. We'll circle back to that.
Till we synergize in a different way.
I'm like, what are you talking about?
I'll do that too. Instead of saying, okay, I'll give them a call. All right, I'm going to reach out to...
Let me ping you.
Oh, God. We're going to circle back. We're table that.
Yeah.
Oh, gee. Or the other one. Well, to that point, it's what we do with, the majority of our outside the house hour. Well, even though, you're probably still doing a lot of remote work. It's still, our with our work hours, you still have to talk to these humans that they're the worst.
Have you ever been starstruck? And who was the celebrity that made you starstruck?
Al Franken. Because he was at the Dead a bunch of the Dead shows, and we went to Playing in the Sand 2020 before everything happened.
Yeah.
It was like, oh my God, that's Al Franken.
Wow.
He and I both went to the bathroom to say I was peeing next to Al Franken. It was awesome.
Wow,
because
that's not the
it's a
celebrity I
weird
would have
one. I know.
Yeah, I wouldn't pin that on you. For Al Franken.
But like there are times when it's I'm trying to think if there's any. Probably also I would say also Conan O'Brien, just because
you've met Conan O'Brien.
Yeah, he was if you Google it, you'll probably see pictures. It was when my dad turned 80 and John turned 30 within a couple of days.
Yeah.
5 days of each other. And it was at the Rainbow Room back when Conan was doing the show out of New York at Rockefeller Center.
Yeah.
So he came up and it was like, that was just like, wow, you're Conan.
One of my favorite Conan O'Brien cameos of all time, because we were talking about The Office, was that brief 5-second scene. I think that's gold. Like every time I see that scene, I'm like, I can't believe they pulled that off.
It was
That's
Michael
hilarious.
Scott is talking about, I got a slice of that real New York Sbarro's pizza. Yeah. And then he thinks he's going to see somebody famous. Like, didn't he, right before he walked right past Conan, see somebody that he thought was famous that wasn't?
Exactly.
Exactly. And then Conan walks right past him, and then the
like,
camera
seriously,
guy's like,
Conan O'Brien? Can't believe this. Is he really that funny in person as well? Like when you meet him off camera?
Yeah, he's not always like, I mean, I met him briefly, but from what I can tell is like, he's not always on the way that like, you'd see these old Borscht Belt comedians who are constantly throwing out one-liners and hey, yeah. But it was more just like, seems like a naturally funny person, which is why I think part of why his show was so good, because Letterman was a broadcaster. Like he went to broadcasting school. He did major in broadcasting at Ball State in Indiana. And so what he brought to it was this broadcasting sensibility. He had been a weatherman. When he did the NBC show and he had things like dunking himself he had a suit of Alka-Seltzers and got dunked in water and they got all fizzy. Like that was stuff that like, this is way before my time. I don't know it because I'm old. I just know it because I love this stuff. But
yeah.
When Steve Allen did the Tonight Show, when Ernie Kovacs did stuff on TV. Like those pioneers is who he was modeling himself on. Conan wasn't a broadcaster. He was just a very funny writer, but he grew up worshiping at the altar of Letterman.
Yeah.
So that helped inform his show. So they were it was a much, it was like Letterman, but with a more keen sense of the absurd.
Right.
I mean,
his podcast is really funny too.
It's great.
Listen to it.
It's so good. But when one of your standout characters is the masturbating bear from his old show, like okay, this is a guy who's going to do the absurd.
I think one of the more underrated late night talk show hosts is Craig Ferguson as well. I think he did what Conan kind of did, which was like completely revolutionize the format.
That show was so good.
I love that show. I literally watch, like, there's a channel on YouTube that has like old clippings of it.
Yep.
And one of my favorites is the compilation of him and Robin Williams. I mean, that's amazing. It's one of my favorite things to watch.
There's also a really great clip that I watch every so often just because it's really good. It was about the time that Britney Spears shaved her head and had that whole thing. And he was talking about, he's like, look, I don't know what her issue is, so I'm not diagnosing her, but he went into his alcoholism and the problems and everything. It was just fascinating. Also, anything with Todd, the skeleton with the Price is Right tag. Was it Todd? Was that his name?
I don't know if it was Todd. I'm blanking.
It was like the skeleton with like a mohawk, I think, right?
I don't think it was. You want to check? Skeleton's name on Craig Ferguson.
Yeah, I'm gonna look too.
Yeah, I don't think it was Todd. It was something else. But
Jeff. It was Jeff with a G.
Jeff. Yes.
It was Geoff.
The voice actor for that robot, like, he should have gotten his own Emmy because he was hilarious.
It was so good. Like, that show, I kind of like that it didn't catch on in a bigger way because it made it more like this is a thing that very few of us are watching and we love it.
And I'm
sure he would have rather had more viewers, but
yeah, but didn't that feel like Conan in the 90s though? Kind of.
Yes.
You would talk about it a little bit more than we would, but that's exactly how I presumed Conan was in the 90s, where it was just like this weird guy with red hair, and he's just hilarious.
And Conan was the same way. He was getting, I think, 13 weeks at a time.
Yeah.
Contracts.
Yeah.
So, the Craig Ferguson thing, that show was, and then I think, probably because he was produced by Worldwide Pants, it was Letterman's company. It was Letterman saw something in him, and I think that's right about when Letterman stopped is right about the time that, because Craig Ferguson stopped before Letterman, I think.
Yeah.
But it was right about the time then that what's his name started, because they had that gap where there's a lot of guest hosts, and then I like him well enough, but it doesn't do it for me the way Craig Ferguson did.
Yeah. Do you think late night talk shows are like a dying format? As someone who's like you love the format, but like, are you because I love the format as well, and I find myself like, I don't watch it anymore. I'm more into podcasts. I do,
now. And I think there's a couple. I think it's because the standout moments you can now watch on YouTube the next day, or on the whatever the platform's website is the next day. So you don't have to watch an hour to see like the standout parts. Even though sometimes the funniest things were the things that weren't, didn't have a huge spotlight. They were just moments.
Yeah.
And then I think what happens also, and particularly with I think Tonight Show does this now with Fallon, they start purposely doing things that aren't necessarily great television, but will make a great YouTube clip.
Exactly.
And so they start doing the show to make the clips instead of it just being clips of the show. I think also there was probably, and this isn't a new thing, the guests don't matter as much as they used to. It's more of a host-driven thing because back when it was, Johnny Carson, if Burt Reynolds had a new Cannonball Run movie coming out or Smokey and the Band, Burt Reynolds would come on. He didn't do talk shows all the time.
Yeah.
He would come out to promote his thing. They'd have fun. And you'd see him on Carson, and maybe, a week later he might be on Mike Douglas or Merv Griffin or something.
Yeah.
But now, by the time there's so many outlets to promote, there's a clip on YouTube of Vin Diesel promoting one of his movies. I forget which one, but he's telling the exact, we talked about earlier, the exact same story, the exact same way over and over and over again. So there's no need to say, wow, this guy's there are certain people. Don Rickles, when he would come on.
Oh, yeah.
Tom Hanks going on Conan. There were people that you knew were going to be good. Paul Rudd going on Conan.
That was
Bill Burr on Conan.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah.
But then for the most part, it's like you didn't have that thing of I really need to see this because I haven't seen this person in a while. It's like you've seen them already in 20 different places promoting the same movie, the same show, the same whatever. So it becomes, which host do I think is funny?
Yeah. I've also heard some guests talk about how before they come on the show, they're always asked to have a funny anecdote or a funny story. And I guess that's part of the whole capturing the moment and probably posting it the next day.
And Carson was really, really good at that because he made it seem like a seamless conversational thing. Like he knows you have a story about, something that happened on your flight from New York to come do the show.
Yeah.
But he'll get there in a way that seems very organic. And his whole thing was he didn't try and be funnier than the guest. If the guest got a laugh, if the guest was funny, he knew that people would say, "Did you see Carson last night? It was really funny."
Yeah.
He got his show got the credit if it was funny. So he was happy to let somebody else have the laugh. Plus, he's coming back tomorrow night. This is their shot. Let him do it.
Yeah.
I think, not to shit on somebody who has infinitely more talent than me, but Jay Leno is never really good at that because it would be like, oh, okay, cool. So something happened on the airplane earlier, huh? It's like, oh, wow, we're just going to just dive right into that story, right?
That's a good Jay Leno.
Thank you. He also, he was very married to the cards. He would ask the questions that were on, wait till the person stopped talking, and then ask the next one. Yeah. Even if they had answered his next question in the answer they gave to the first one, and he wasn't even paying attention.
I was just going to ask you, because I feel like we could talk about the late night talk show situation for like hours, but
maybe that's the podcast. Maybe that's what we do.
That's what it is. There we go. I was going to ask you, but I feel like you already answered it, which was Conan versus Jay. When that whole situation happened, what side were you on? But I'm feeling like you were leaning towards the Conan side.
I'm more of a Conan guy, but I get why it didn't work. I mean, from what I could tell, first of all, I think the thing that he should have done, with 2020 hindsight, is do what Fallon does and have Lorne Michaels involved. Because Lorne Michaels produced, Broadway Video produced the 12:30 show. When he went to 11:30, he should have had Lorne Michaels involved because he had the clout to back him up.
Yeah.
Also, it seemed like between Dick Ebersol and a bunch of other people, there were too many. He was getting advice from too many people because you could see him. There were times when he'd do his string dance,
Yeah.
And then he'd do it and he would literally apologize for it afterward because probably somebody told him, "Don't do that stuff. This is 11:30. Nobody wants to see that."
Yeah.
So he'd do the string dance and go, "Oh, I don't know why I did that. I'm sorry." And it was like, no, you're Conan. That's what you do.
Yeah.
And then there's a book by Bill Carter. It wasn't The Late Shift, The War for Late Night.
Yeah.
He wrote the book The Late Shift about Leno and Letterman. And then The War for Late Night was about Leno and Conan. And Conan his agent or manager or whoever made a big mistake not having something in the contract saying the Tonight Show will air at 11:30 or 11:35 or whatever. So that's when NBC was like, well, we're going to put Jay's show on at 11:30 and the Tonight Show will come on at 12:30. And there was nothing contractually that could stop them from doing it. It was still, all it said was, you get the Tonight Show.
Yeah.
All right, well, the Tonight Show is now on at 4 a.m. and contractually we're fine because it's the Tonight Show.
Yeah. It was just such a messy situation. Like, again, we were too young when it was happening to register what was happening. But like in hindsight, I watched all the documentaries. There's like really cool YouTube videos, compilations of that. One of my favorite moments that came out of that was when Conan came on Letterman, and he talked about that whole interview, that 15, 20 minutes. Amazing.
That's great. I think his sign off at the end of his run on the Tonight Show is fantastic when he was telling people, don't be cynical.
Yeah.
I have nothing to complain about. I've had a home at NBC for 20 plus however many years. And Letterman was really funny during that because he wasn't part of this fight. He could just sit there on the sidelines and comment on it.
Yeah. Like Conan even says, so the part where I got and lost the Tonight Show is what you deem the golden age of television. And he's like, yeah, it was hilarious to see it from the sides.
And that's when Leno was doing his 10 o'clock show, which bombed.
Mm-hmm.
It also then the affiliates were mad because it hurt the ratings for their 11 o'clock newscasts because people weren't watching Jay's show, but he had on Jimmy Kimmel as a guest to do like 5 questions, 10 questions, whatever it was called. Yeah. And he's like, oh, what's that? You like pranks? What's the biggest prank you've ever pulled on anybody? And he's like, well, one time I told a guy he could have my show, and then I took it right back from him. And I got to credit Jay. He plowed through it, but
yeah, if that was Will Smith, he got beat
up.
Yeah.
Dude, it was a really weird time, and it also none of it mattered.
Yeah,
because so many people were like, that's where the Team Coco thing started.
Yeah, and he went on tour.
Yeah,
after.
And the contractually prohibited from being on television tour or whatever it was called.
Yeah,
and then I look back and I'm like, why were we upset about this?
Yeah,
like, Cohn kind of got screwed. He was sort of complicit in his own getting screwed because of just, he didn't necessarily handle everything right from the beginning. Not that he could have known it, it just kind of happened that way.
Yeah.
But he's got millions of dollars. It's like, the Tonight Show isn't the Tonight Show that it was anymore. So it's not like it was this brass ring you lost.
Yeah.
It's just very strange to me that became a thing that people were like, maybe I'm just a nerd and it was only my friends that were into it.
No.
That people were that upset about it.
Yeah. People, and there was protests, remember? Yeah. Outside the NBC offices, there were protests and stuff.
And now, what, a capital assault and a pandemic later, and we're like, this is what we were worried about?
Yeah. Man, that's so weird. 2010s, the 10s were such a peaceful time.
They really were.
Yeah.
I mean, people were all up in arms about nothing. Is that dress blue or is it black?
I saw that on my Twitter feed just last night, and it made me realize how distraught or how divided everybody became just because of that one dress picture.
What was it?
What's wrong with you? I don't even remember.
What was it? Was it blue or black?
Like in real life, I think it was a blue dress. In that picture, there's something about the way that picture came out.
Yeah.
It depended. Like sometimes I'd look at it and it looked blue. Sometimes I looked at it, it looked black.
Yeah.
Were there
it was either blue or black, or it was gold and white.
Yeah.
That's right. And that's what was so strange about it. Was it, blue or black? They're too close. Yeah, it was blue and black or gold and white, which are two completely opposite ends of, it's not like it was something, is this navy blue or royal blue? These are two different things.
Yeah.
And that's what was so messed up about it. Not the fact that I saw one thing and you saw another. It's that I saw one thing and then 10 minutes later, I saw another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was what the world was concerned about.
Yeah, imagine
God,
that.
what a simple time.
It feels so long ago too. Yeah. we're like in our 20s and it feels like decades ago.
It feels like decades, but also like 20 minutes.
Yeah, how weird.
That's the weird thing.
That's the weirdest thing. So the feeling that I get is that you're really like in tune with like internet culture now. Is that true? Because what really surprised me, and I kind of got like a mini heart attack, was a couple of days ago. I told you this. A couple of days ago, Carl DMs me, and he's like, "Oh, just by the way, all those Reddit questions, we're probably not gonna."
No.
And I kid you not, I was like, "Did he just read all of that?"
You know what I did? To make you feel better, I did. When I'm on Reddit, I'm subscribed to
say it.
Cross stitch, diamond painting. I think I'm subscribed to like Public Freakout.
Yeah.
And a couple of the other ones that have like a lot of street fighting and Karen's losing it at a Walmart. But it was a couple of people sent it to me is the only reason I knew.
Oh, okay. All right. So I thought, all right. So I got really embarrassed because I was like, I'm just trying to like promote the podcast. I'm pretty sure we didn't use any of those questions.
No, it was fine. There was one, the one about the guitar, about Dad renting the guitar.
Yeah. But the thing is,
which is fine.
But we already had that question before. So like, I'm not going to give the Redditor that credit.
No, it was, I was just like, oh my God, this is a lot of questions. Yeah. No, it was when you started Heart Attack, at first it didn't sound like heart, it sounded like hard. And there was a long time in my head before you said attack, because I thought maybe another word like, on was going to follow.
No, that's not this podcast, buddy. Not this one. So do you find yourself on the John Mayer Reddits at all, or is that
not really? I'll go there sometimes if and maybe it was in Atlanta that they played some. They worked "Say" into one of the songs, the Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney song.
Yeah,
which I have to assume Phil and Gaines played on because he did a lot with Michael Jackson. Yeah. But I had heard about it, and that was the first place I checked was Reddit. Because I'm like, somebody's going to have a video of that. But it's never like, I'm never grazing. It's usually just I have something specific I'm looking for, and I'm sure it'll be here.
Probably for the best.
I'm not in on the Reddit culture yet, and I think I'm missing out.
I'm on the John Mayer Reddit. That's the only Reddit thing I follow.
There's a really good one called "Am I the Asshole?" It's like, and they'll lay out a story where somebody was offended by something they did, and they'll be like, AITA?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you really are.
But so on the Reddit stuff, one of the most popular questions were people really want to know about your CrossFit stuff. So like, how did you get into that?
All right. So I am much better at following a recipe than I can bake. I can't cook. Like there's that whole thing where people say like, well, because baking is more like you put in a cup of this, you put in 2 tablespoons of that, you stir it for this long, put it in at this temperature for that long, and a cake will come out. And then I guess when you decorate it, that's where some artistry plays into it. But the actual making the cake, to me, that's very simple. You told me what to do and I did it.
Yeah.
Cooking is like, let me taste. Oh, it needs a little basil. I can't. I don't know how to do that. So what I like about cross stitch is that it's just, there's a pattern and it tells you, I think let me find an example.
Are you working with something right now?
Well, here's one that I actually started it and then we had a flood in the basement when there was a storm and I lost it. So I got to start it over, but what it's going to be is, live, laugh. Oh, let me turn off so the reason I have it blurred is because I was ironing shirts and there is let's see here. There is an ironing board right behind me. It actually doesn't look that bad.
No problem.
So, but there's like live, laugh, love, but it's Skeletor. And so basically it's just, it gives you this thing saying, hey, this symbol means that color. Okay. And then you just go through and you go, all right, I can do that. I can't sit with a bunch of threads and I can make a pattern and I can follow somebody else's pattern, but I don't understand people that can just sit down and make something.
Yeah.
And so the way I got into it was I got obsessed for a while with the idea of making a big Lego mosaic. Finding like you get the big square of it and then all the little one square flat, the ones that if you try and get it off, you have to use a special tool to pop off the Lego or you'll destroy your fingers.
Yeah.
And I was like, I found things online where you could buy, I need 8 of this color and 15 of that color, but it would have been too expensive and I forgot about it. And then one night I remembered like, oh yeah, there's cross stitch. I used to see that in like my mom's like Women's Day magazines and stuff.
Yeah.
And so let me see. These are ones I haven't framed yet. A lot of them are hanging in my daughter's room, but there's Elsa.
Of course.
Oh,
that's adorable.
This is one that's up on my Instagram. Made it at the start of the pandemic. It's probably going to show up backwards on the thing, but
no, it's
there you go.
perfectly fine. Stay at
cool.
home. Yeah.
It was backward on my screen.
Yeah.
And then here's this one. I've been meaning to finish these off, and I haven't yet. I want to make little like coasters.
Yeah.
So I've got this one.
Oh, battle
like,
studies.
When you look close, you can see it's just a bunch of colors, but
Yeah.
And then I got that one.
Yeah. Heavier things.
That's what I do.
Reddit also really wanted to know what your favorite John Mayer album / track is.
Yeah.
Let's see. I love Walt Grace.
Of course.
I love everything about Born and Raised. I think it's really unfortunate, not just because he had throat issues, which is unfortunate, but that it was sort of at the expense of being able to promote that album.
Yes.
But I also know that it's I'm turning it back on there. It has, the fans have found it. And when songs like Queen of California come up on a tour, people love it.
I'm a big believer of the born and raised supremacy.
It's
I
grown
think
over time.
it's the best. I love it so much.
It's
And every-
it's great. It's a great record. It holds together in a way where it's not like a concept album, but each song is very cohesive with the other one, with the one before it and the one after it.
yeah, I love it absolutely. So born and raised, and then Walt Grace.
Walt Grace, there's something about it I think it's just beautiful. And then I have to look it up. It might have been Clarity. I think he did Clarity at the second show at Madison Square Garden. And I was not prepared for how emotional that was. Like, I was crying hearing it because it was such a throwback.
Yeah,
Not because Clarity is a necessarily like sad song. It's not at all. It was just like, oh, you get put back into like 2004 or 5, whenever it came out. And it's like, oh my God.
Nostalgia. Do you ever think about, okay, where I was when I was listening to this song originally?
Yeah, I think some of the songs I heard him the first time was like at his apartment when he played them on his computer. And it was like, this is really good.
Yeah.
yeah.
Speaking of concept albums, not that Saw Rock is a concept album, but he was trying something very different and new.
Yeah.
What'd you think of that? Did you like it?
I love that record. One of my favorite songs, if not my favorite song, and I know a lot of people have strong feelings on it one way or the other. I love Why You No Love Me.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yes.
When you had the whole build up towards
Why You Don't Love Me supremacy. I believe in that too.
I understand why some people have an aversion to it, because it's called Why You No Love Me. I get it.
Yeah.
But it's just such a good song.
Great song. I think
he hasn't performed it live yet, right?
No, I'm hoping he does it in Toronto. It's just gonna be one of those moments where it's like, it's here. It's finally here. We've come full circle. And it's
just such a good song.
Yeah.
Better. It's clear, like he said, it's a theme thing where do a song from that, do songs from that era that would sound at home in that era, not a pastiche or a campy thing, but that song. There are songs on that record that are better than songs that were on the radio and hits at the time.
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with Sob Rock that happened with Born and Raised. It's only been almost a year. It's going to be a year this year when it comes out, but it's growing on me, and fans are finding it, and they're like, you know what?
Yep.
This is really good. And yeah, Why You No Love Me supremacy. That's all I'm going to say.
Absolutely.
Anybody who's listening to this or watching this, if you don't like Why You No Love Me, try it again.
Yes.
And just forget the fact that grammatically it's got that quirk. Just listen to the song.
It's really well done. I think John really pushed himself with that song. It shows.
It's way, this is going to sound horrible to say, it's way better than it needs to be. It could get away with being half as good as it is and still be a good song.
I agree. I totally agree.
I mean, and as fans, we just love the fact that John is at the point in his career where he can try different things and trust his fan base to be open to these new ideas and still, have a great love for them.
And who would have thought, in 2015 when it started, that Dead & Company would turn into what it turned into?
It's huge. He's going back on tour with them right after the Sob Rock tour. And that's amazing.
And that one will take, we didn't take our daughter to any of the, anytime Dead & Company are playing indoors, we tend not to take her because the smoke doesn't exactly dissipate.
Fair. Yeah.
But, at Citi Field, it'll be a different story. It'll be out in the open, and she'll be no contact high.
How old is your daughter, if you don't mind me
5.
asking? Oh, yeah.
5, so
she's gonna love that Citi Field show.
Yeah, she will. I think when she was, I guess it was 2019, before the shit hit the fan, that we went, and she was 2 then, and had a ball. So
yeah.
Do you see her playing an instrument? Would you buy her an instrument and put her through some lessons, maybe?
Yeah, there's an app, which I forget the name of now, but it's on the tablet where it has lessons, and it can hear what you're playing.
Oh wow!
On piano to know right note, wrong note, and she's getting good at that. She likes doing it. I'm never gonna force her to, but if she said I want to do this, all right, try it out.
Well, Carl, we're sort of coming to an end now. Thank you very much for being on. Thank you for saying yes. I can't
No,
believe
thank you for asking me.
I can't believe we actually got you on because, like, to be honest, we've been trying to get you on for the past year, and it's like
I apologize. I had no idea. It was probably
I figured.
like I probably would have done the same thing if I were you and delete the old ones. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that you were nuts or desperate or anything. Maybe a little desperate, but not nuts. But
I mean, we do look like
I
some
get it.
Indian tech guys who would.
Yeah, we'll fix your computer too. if
We're
you
the
want.
IT guys.
I'm gonna log off of this and find that all my data's gone. Oh, you got me. Well played.
No, but we're really we're honored that you came on. You said yes. You know, your brother is one of our like favorite artists, and to be close to you, to be close to him, it's a privilege. It's an honor. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. This
Is
was
there
great.
anything else? Is there anything else you want to promote? Plug it in.
Most Sunday nights at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock. 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 Pacific. $15 game show. You don't even have to play if you don't want. You can just watch. It's on Instagram. Carl W Mayer at Carl W. Carl with a C, W, and then Mayer like the singer.
All right, that was Carl Amir, guys. We'll just end it on that.
Yeah.
We'll end it on that note.
Yep. Stay on
Cool.
for a minute.